So our meetings are scheduled to start at 7, and it's at 7. So, and we have a complete quorum here of all 5 of us, so off we go. The first thing we do at our meetings is hear from residents with resident concerns. This time I managed to remember to bring my little timer, so let me say a little bit about time. We'd like to have people keep their comments during the resident concern sections to 2 minutes. And the reason is a fewfold. First, it's a matter of fairness. We don't want to have, if there's a contentious issue, we don't want to hear, a lot more from one side or another. We want to give everybody a fair chance. The other thing is that most of our brains, well, especially mine, can't take in much more information than is in a 2-minute speech. So if you have something that's longer and more complicated than that, the best thing to do is to write us on the select board an email at sb@actonma.gov. That lets us absorb all the information and take the time that it takes to really understand what you're trying to say. The other reason, I guess, it may not be so as important tonight because we have a pretty light agenda, but we do want to leave time to get to all the other stuff we need to talk about since we are a body that needs to make a bunch of decisions every couple of weeks. I think that's it for introductory remarks on the resident concerns. Is there anybody that actually has any resident concerns that'd like to come up to the microphone and speak them? Come on up. Do you think 2 minutes will be enough?
Thank you, Jim. By the way, acoustics in this room are very poor. I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think we in the town need to try and improve those. People
yes.
In the back, you can hardly hear what's happening.
Okay, well, anyway. I'll try to speak closer to the microphone. Plus, I know we are working on some fixes.
Anyway.
Sam, do you think 2 minutes will be enough?
I think it's going to be a little more than 2 minutes, but.
I can stop it at 3.
Okay, that would be fine. And if not, I can submit the whole thing like you just
Absolutely.
Suggested. This is concerning, I just found out a few days ago that one of my tenants who...
Can we do, I'm sorry, so sorry to interrupt. Can we do the thing where you say your name and where you're from?
Yes, I'm Sam Bajwa. I live at 88 Willow Street, and I also own 1992 Willow Street next door, which I bought 45 plus years ago when I came here to work for Digital. And I want to let the board know that I remember Digital had 1-sentence ethics policy, always do the right thing. I've always tried to do that. I can't say it's 100%, but I've always attempted to do that. Anyway, so when I just found out a few days ago that one of my tenants had come here and presented, I listened to the whole speech, and most of it was exaggerations, and some of it was outright lies. So I didn't want to let it stand. I wanted to make sure I set the record straight. So I have a few things to mention here. I emailed a letter. I assume everybody got the letter. If not, I have printed copies. I can leave those with you to see. Although this letter was focused more on the appeal that the tenants had towards with the Board of Health. Because they had issued order to vacate. So it was really focused on that. But there are many other issues that I want to talk about that are also surrounding the same issue. And as you can tell from the letter, the Thompsons actually owe me over 5 years of rent. Can you believe that? Over $75,000. And of course, Gene the other day said, oh, we don't owe them anything. The 2 letters you have in what I sent you, it is their own acknowledgement of that they owe me the rent, and they will, Bill always said, oh, we are suing somebody, and if we get paid, we'll pay you and all that, but that obviously never happened. The Thompsons have been my tenants for 11 years, and they never paid rent on time, but I've been very relaxed with the tenants. All the tenants, life is not binary. It's not like on first of the month or even, sometimes the tenants would say, gee, I'm a little late and, a month goes by, and I'm okay with that. I let them, I was very easygoing with them. Didn't pay any security deposit. They were paying a little bit at a time. I knew they were going through a hard time. And I didn't really, I was really nice to them. And they complained to the Board of Health only after I told them that, hey, gee, I'm going to demolish the houses and build new ones. They are old homes. I had heart surgery 5 years ago, so no, 6 years ago. And I said to myself, you know what, I don't want to leave my wife and kids with some very old property to deal with. Just let's demolish it, build it, and even, sell it. And even we really are thinking seriously of downsizing into one or two of the units ourselves. So this is not a project which a builder is coming in and knocking things down and making money. It's something I'm doing for myself, where I might end up living in it myself. But anyway, that's besides the point. And more recently, they've had 17 months since I asked them to vacate. And by the way, by law, there were tenants at will, all 4 tenants. I could have asked them to leave in 1 month. That's the law. But I thought that was very unreasonable. And I said, no, that's fine. It's 3 minutes?
Amazing. Yes, but why don't you pick out the 1 or 2 things you want to make sure to say in addition to what you said?
Okay. Boy, but I'm taking longer than I thought. They've been really retaliating against us. They're harassing us, they're threatening to sue us, they're blocking the driveway. We were in the parking lot and she came and yelled at us and said, what are you doing in my parking lot? And gee, we are the owners. And they called the cops on us once. It's really, it's really pretty bad. However, let me say one thing in the end. I just found out a few days ago that the town is helping, trying to get them some alternative housing. I'm really happy to see that. And I know there are tenant advocates, which I totally support. I think there are a lot of landlords, especially corporate landlords, who need to be checked and who need to be this, okay? But my thing is, you have to know the whole story before you start advocating for people. These guys are, in my opinion, they've done this before. And I think in my letter, you will see that, when they were very friendly for all these years. But when I asked them to vacate, Bill got very angry. And he yelled at me and he said, Sam, talk to my previous landlord. He'll tell you how long I can drag you through this whole thing. And surely he has dragged us through a long time. These guys apparently have done this sort of stuff before. In the court, they are constantly making excuses, not delaying things. Just today, my lawyer mentioned to me that our trial, which is coming up at the end of the month, they have said, Jean has scheduled hospitalization a day or 2 before, so she can't come. So we have to move the date again. These are all tricks to try and delay everything, and I'm hoping the town will do something. Please help them. I really would appreciate any help you guys can give them. That would be very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
And I don't know if Mr. Bajwa had anything more to say, but I'll observe that, the tenant at our last meeting had virtually unlimited time to make accusations. And I think in the pursuit of fairness, I think we should see if Mr. Bajwa has anything more that he'd like to say. I think that this is a good time to vary from your 2 or 3 minute policy.
Thanks, Gene. I think the right way for us to handle this is to make sure that Sam's complete comments are available in the extra information so that we can read them and the rest of the people can read them. And we can do the same thing with the tenants' comments as well. So we'll make sure your entire document is available for people to look at. Right, of course, because the acoustics are so bad. We're going to make sure your entire document is available. Great, thank you. Are there others in the room that have resident concerns?
Madeline Cruz, 6 Station Way. Though I appreciate the comment that he made as the landlord for these tenants, the fact remains that we are not a court of law and everyone has a right to defend themselves. But I want to remind everyone that housing is a human right. And we have 2 residents of Acton facing an eviction and they need all the help that they can get. I am not, as a resident of Acton, by any means interested in the defense or what he's trying to say, because at the end of the day, regardless of whether they did wrong or they did right, we still have a duty to find these tenants a home so that we can end homelessness. Whatever issues he may have with his tenants, he needs to take that up to court, because we are not a court of law. We are here to service the people in this community, whether they're renters or homeowners. These are two renters facing eviction, and they need a safe place to stay. They need a place that's safe, and they need a place that's suitable for their needs. And that's what this should be about. It shouldn't be about coming here and taking advantage of your title, who you are, to display mayhem. It should be about finding the right things to service to people that might become homeless in our town. And I expect better from anyone that stands in this podium. We have to do better. Again, housing is a human right.
Thank you, Madeline. Oh, great. There's a person online, Justin, who wants to speak.
Okay, Jim. Call in user. You're on.
Hi, this is Tara from Massa. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Yes. So first of all, I'd like to thank all the people with lawnmowers that are helping the town. The grass is growing really fast, and the town's having a hard time keeping up, from what I understand. And private people are chipping in where they're near trails or whatever. So thank you, everybody. Now I'd like to speak on the 92 Willow situation, which the last two speakers spoke on. Whether the tenants owe this amount or that amount, whether they're bad tenants or good tenants or not, whether he lied, she lied, whatever. The issue is around whether we allow the town to play party in allowing the landlord and developer to subvert the eviction process by using condemnation powers of the town. And I agree with what Madeline said. I do not think that the town should ever use its powers to subvert due process. The town should not get involved in a landlord-tenant dispute except to ensure that the landlord ensures this unit is safe while the due process proceeds. And if the landlord refuses to make it safe or can't, then the landlord should pay the rent for the tenants to relocate while the due process proceeds and or the housing authority finds a home for these folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Justin, is there anyone else out in Zoom land who wants to speak?
It doesn't look like it.
Okay, thanks so much. Okay, now we'll shift to chair update. So first bit of update is that John Mangiarotti isn't here, and that's a good thing, actually. One of the goals we gave him during our goal-setting process, or during the contract process, was to have him do what it takes to both develop a better work-life balance for him and for all of town staff. So I'm really happy to report that he's actually taking a vacation. So hooray for John. We'll welcome him back next week. The other update I had was that last week we started placing a document soon after the meeting as possible that just simply recorded the votes taken on each agenda item. That information will be available on the Select Board's public page, actonma.gov/SB for Select Board. And it's also being mailed out after that, emailed out to all boards and committees. We're hoping it's a way for people to learn in a more timely manner about the decisions we've made. It's no substitute for minutes, which describe the discussion that's happened, but it's a way of getting the sort of the hot news out to people that are curious about what we've decided about things. And if you have any concerns or questions about that, please write to us. We'll make it even better. That's all I had. Looking around, I wonder if, Alyssa, do you have any updates?
I do, thank you. I wanted to let everyone in the public know about a newspaper initiative. You probably are all aware that the last edition of the beacon was printed in May of last year, and the League of Women Voters launched bringing a newspaper back to Acton. So they held a workshop right here in February. 70-plus participants attended, and a working group was established and is working on multiple fronts. They recently adopted a mission statement. They're working to create a nonprofit, developing a business plan, and conducting outreach to affinity groups. One initiative is they are submitting content to the Acton Maynard edition of the Action Unlimited, which is available printed. It is delivered every Friday. If you don't get a delivery, you can pick one up in the library or outside of CVS. So I encourage everybody to look for news content related to Acton that's being submitted there or online at the Action Unlimited website. And they're also looking for volunteers, especially folks with legal, business, fundraising, and individual giving management expertise. And the group is meeting monthly on the second Wednesday at 7 p.m. So the next meeting is the day after tomorrow, July 12th, and it will be at the Acton Memorial Library in the meeting room. And speaking of the library, I had one more update. So this is my 2 minutes. The first annual Community Read program series is a collaboration between the libraries, the town's conservation division, the sustainability office, Friends of the Acton Arboretum, and the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Office. And this program is providing opportunities to promote literacy, library and conservation space usage, and community conversations by encouraging folks in Acton to read and discuss a single book, which is The Intersectional Environmentalist by Leah Thomas. And the next event is also the day after tomorrow, Wednesday the 12th at 9 a.m. There is a walk and talk with Bettina Abe at the Acton Arboretum. So I encourage everybody who likes to read to join that Community Read initiative.
Thanks, Alyssa. David?
Thank you. I just wanted to let everybody know that Energize Acton is holding climate cafes every Wednesday from 5 to 6 behind the library. Despite the cafe name, they didn't have any coffee last week, but they did have cookies. And each week I think they're planning to do it for 8 weeks during the summer. Each week they have a different topic, like clean energy coaching or electric vehicles or solar power, things like that. And so you can find out more information at energizeacton.org. Or just show up at 5 o'clock on Wednesday.
Thanks, David. Fran?
I'm passing.
Okay, totally fine. Dean?
Yeah, just a quick update on progress with the Acton Community Dog Park. The Stanton Foundation received the grant application for construction, could be up to $250,000. They returned it with some comments. Those have been responded to, so progress is continuing on that. And a contract was signed for stormwater management design for the parking lot and the related facilities there at the dog park. So it's moving along well. Thank you.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Okay, now we have some hearings. The first one is a liquor license transfer from Philo's Great Road Incorporated to 5 Star Woodlawn Incorporated at 59 Great Road. And it could be that, Lisa, since you're normally our sort of licensing expert, I wondered if you had any opening comments or whether we should just go directly and hear from the proponents.
I think you could just go ahead and read the public hearing notice and then proceed after.
Can I come over and get the public hearing notice? Okay, thank you.
I think I can read it from the agenda here.
Okay, yeah, that was just what I was trying to do. I tried to mention what it was, the liquor license transfer, who it was from, who it was to.
Oh, it's not, it's the full text. is
The whole
not in-
text is not actually in the agenda, though. That may be enough.
But wait, hold on.
But David,
The
you,
first one is the liquor license. I'm just looking at the, I'm just seeing if the full text is just opening. Sorry.
okay. I'm going to say that's enough, because I remember having this conversation with town council about, what were the rituals that we do at these meetings that are maybe not entirely necessary? And what I heard back was, the key thing is the date of the hearing, what it is. Let's see. Here's a whole one that has, here's one that has even more details. I'll fill in a tiny bit more. That this notice is given under Chapter 138, Section 12, that we're having the hearing here, and that's really it. The application is on file in the Select Board office and may be viewed during normal working hours. I think we got it all. So I'd love to hear about this actual license transfer, and what's up?
Good evening. I'm Mike Gatlin. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I have with me the manager named on the applicant, Elaine Jalone. You are probably familiar with the existing restaurant. The plan here is to maintain the existing restaurant, the menu, the style of operation, largely intact. Ms. Jalone has a lot of experience, both in alcohol service and in overall restaurant management, having served at the Aegean restaurant in Framingham, the Decina restaurant in Cambridge, the Villa restaurant in Wayland. Her husband also is going to be working at the restaurant, and he is currently serving as a bartender and server at the Villa restaurant in Wayland. Client is very, very concerned about making certain that there are no alcohol violation problems here. This is something that they take very, very seriously. She's had tips training. I think she's provided to this board a copy of the policies that will be implemented at the new restaurant. The idea here is to maintain a family-style restaurant serving high-quality food without incident. There's no entertainment issues. What you see presently will continue with just new energy. And I think at some point, probably you'll see a little bit of a change to the menu as they put their personal imprint on the restaurant. But there will be no dramatic changes. No one is going to be saying, boy, I had no idea that's what was coming to Acton. It will be something that's very, very familiar to people. It's been a successful formula. They intend to continue that. And we think that this transfer application serves the interests of the town by providing a place that offers good quality food at reasonable prices and complements that with alcohol service.
It's great to have new business owners coming into town, and I'm now
They will also
wondering-
be taxpayers, by the way. They're going to be buying
Absolutely.
the building where it's going to be condominiumized, and they're going to own the building. So there's all kinds of tax dollars here for the town.
All good, and the menu as usual is delicious. So I'm wondering if any of my fellow board members have questions or comments? No? Let's see, one question. Are the hours planning to change?
No.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so there may be comments from the public.
There's one online.
Okay, there's a comment online. Justin, why don't you bring that person in?
We have call-in user number 1. You are unmuted.
Hi, this is Terry again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
My only question is are you going to be open this weekend?
Are you open this weekend?
Well, the current, obviously the liquor license application needs to be approved both on this level and with the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission in Boston. So the current operation remains in place until all of that is accomplished. So you're not going to see, I don't have any idea what the turnaround time is in Boston on this. I'm told anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. We're hoping it's going to be sooner. We are in either the good or the bad position of making this application at the beginning of the summer vacation season, whether that pushes, the agenda on the ABCC level back or not, I've got no way of knowing. But there will be no immediate changes. I do want to just state for the record, though, it's in the application. This liquor license is going to be pledged as part of an overall loan package for the acquisition of the property. So just want to get that on the record.
Yep, I saw that. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Can I clarify my question, because I didn't get the answer? Will we be able to eat Italian food at that location? Whether you guys are the Philos guys, can we eat there for this weekend? Thank you.
I have no knowledge that the current owner is going to do anything about changing. He was going to stay open until the sale is complete, is my understanding. So
Just
you will
go-
be able to get dinner
Yep.
on this weekend.
Great, thank you. Seeing no more questions, I would be happy to entertain a motion about this license.
First, I move to close the public hearing.
Thank you. Let's move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, is there any more discussion about closing the public hearing? No? All those in favor, please say yes or aye.
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 Okay, the public hearing is closed. Now let's rewind that. Is there a motion about this license?
I move to approve the liquor license transfer from Philo's Great Road to 5 Star Chalone at 59 Great Road.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the license transfer. Any other comments? No? All those in favor, please say yes or aye. Yes?
Aye.
That's unanimous. You're all set. Please, welcome to Acton. Yes, yeah, yes.
And Mr. Chair, I do have the text of this one if you'd like me to read it.
Sure. Let's see, 7:15. Sure. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is going to have a lot of overlap.
The Acton Select Board will hold a public hearing on July 10th, 2023 at 7:15 PM in the Francis Faulkner Hearing Room, 204 at Town Hall, 472 Main Street, Acton, and virtually on the application of 5 Star Chalone, Inc., 59 Great Road, Acton, under Section 140 of the Massachusetts General Laws for a common vittler license. The application can be inspected at Town Hall during normal business hours. Remote participants may view the hearing at actonma.gov/BOS or from a telephone dial 646-876-9923 and enter webinar ID 503-918-785. Telephone users may dial *9 to request to speak. Computer and app users may use the raised hand feature to speak.
Perfect, thank you. So is there anything else we need to hear about a common vittler's license?
No, again, Michael Gatlin for the applicant. I think the high points are covered in the liquor license application. It's the same thing. A high level of food quality and food service is key to the success of any restaurant. My clients are particularly aware of that. And they anticipate that there will be no public health or other issues related to the operation of this restaurant.
Great, thank you. My fellow board members might have questions or comments. David?
I just want to say thank you for continuing the operation of this restaurant. We're very happy to have it continuing the service, and welcome to Acton.
Dean?
So I heard you mention, I believe you've had some experience with running the Aegean over in Framingham, which was heartbroken when it closed. And hopefully Philo's will add some, or the new restaurant will add some Greek food. Thank you.
We'll consider.
But the restaurant industry just took such a big hit with COVID, and I'm not sure everybody's completely bounced back even yet. It's and that's a very visible victim of the situation.
Justin, are there any comments online? No.
None at the moment.
Okay, great, thanks. And anyone in the audience? No? Okay. I would then propose that someone move to close this hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
A second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any more comments about closing it? No? All those in favor, please say yes or aye. Yes? Okay, that's unanimous on closing it. And now we'll have a motion about approving this. David?
I move to approve the common vittler license for 5 Star Chalone, 59 Great Road.
Second.
Second, okay, we have moved and seconded again. Any other comments? No. All those in favor, please say yes or aye. Yes?
Aye.
Okay, I heard from everybody. That's another approval, unanimous. We all want you here. We all want you serving this delicious food to us. So welcome to Acton.
We'll let you know when we take over, and you're all invited to come and spend some money.
Great.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The next hearing is from Eversource. We have what's called a poll petition. And maybe David, once again, has this language at the ready. Okay. Oh, look, I'm being handed something. Oh, look at that. Okay, I'm going to read some of this. The Acton Select Board will hold a public hearing on July 10th, 2023 at 7:20 PM in Acton Town Hall, room 204, and remotely by video conference and call-in on the application of N-Star Electric Company, doing business as Eversource, for a grant of location to install approximately 50 feet of conduit at 362 Main Street, northwesterly, approximately 600 feet northeast of Route 2 at pole 31/130. And then I'm skipping all the information how to be at this meeting because you're already at the meeting. So it looks like Chris Cosby is here from Eversource. And Justin, I'd love to have her speak to this petition.
She has been unmuted.
Great. Oh, hello. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about this petition in your own words, and then we'll talk about it. Sadly, we're not hearing you yet. Maybe there's an...
This is Christine Cosby from Eversource.
We gotcha. Go for it.
It's Christine Cosby from Eversource, and we are requesting a grant of location for approximately 50 feet of conduit at existing pole 31/130 on Main Street in Acton. And the purpose of this installation would be to provide the new underground electric service to the building at 362 Main Street.
That's a familiar address. Is that Tavernier Place? Yeah, go ahead, David.
McManus.
Of course it is. McManus. Yes, McManus Manor. Thank you. Is there anything else we need to know before we discuss this? No, I'm guessing not. Are there any questions or comments? First from the board? No? Any questions or comments from either the audience here or the online audience? Yes, I see that there is at least one call-in user who has raised their hand. Justin, can you let them speak?
Yep, call-in user, you're unmuted.
Hi, yes, this is Sarah again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. This is electric only, is that correct?
That is correct.
And wouldn't it be totally underground? We've had lots of problems with poles falling down, storms, outages, and a previous administration stated a desire to have as much underground as possible, especially where there's new electric being installed. Thank you. I'll take you offline. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We can look into that. It's outside of the scope of the hearing, but it's a great question. Any other comments or questions? David?
Yeah, just for clarification, my understanding is this permission is not for a new pole, but for running a conduit with electrical service from the pole 50 feet towards the McManus Manor building under construction. Is that correct, Christine? I think, Christine, you're still unmuted, so you might be able to just speak. Oh, no, yeah, there you go.
Yes, okay. Yes, this entire installation is underground. There's not a new pole. We're coming off the existing pole that's there, going underground to the private property into the building for the McManus Manor.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
So this is not a new pole?
Right,
Right, and
right.
this is underground?
Yes, yes. The new work here is putting something underground. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? No? I would accept a motion to close the hearing.
So moved?
And a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close the hearing. All those in favor, please say aye or yes. Yes.
Aye.
Yeah, that was all five of us. The next thing would be a motion to approve this what is it called?
It's called a poll petition.
Yes, okay, approve the poll petition.
I would move to approve the poll petition allowing underground conduit to run electricity service to 362 Main Street.
A second would be great.
Second.
Thanks, Alyssa. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say yes or aye.
Aye.
That's all 5 of us. So Christine Cosby, you're all set.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, the next item, discuss and approve charge for Public Works Facility Building Committee. Dean, maybe you could take us through this.
Sure, thank you. And the draft charge was in your packet. So, as you might recall, several years ago, we created a Public Works Facility Study Committee. And that committee actually sunsetted at the end of last year, having provided their recommendation to the Select Board. And subsequent to that, we went to town meeting and had funding approved for 60% design of the new facility. So we need to have a new committee, in my opinion, to work with the town staff and the town manager and the architects in order to further the design of the project. So hence the new draft charge. The first paragraph, I basically went through the iteration of all of the previous actions we've taken to show that this is consistent with a long-term plan. Cited specifically the 2/3 vote that we did get. It actually was a 3/4 vote for the funding. And set up exactly what the duties of the committee are in the second paragraph. Evaluate the scope, design, service levels, and financial estimates for the design and construction of the new DPW and site. And then the committee itself looks very similar in makeup to the previous committee. And we'll certainly reach out for some community members. Some might carry on from the previous committee, and we might add some new individuals. And we also have the opportunity to call on other members of town staff as far as specific subject areas that we need to discuss. Basically, the committee will continue until the project is complete, and then the committee will automatically sunset. So hopefully, it'll be a short-term committee. I'm hopefully optimistic that it could be 3 years from beginning to end.
Thanks, Dean. David, is there a chance that we could get the text, at least the first few paragraphs up on the screen?
I think so, if you'll give me a moment. Maybe
Absolutely.
people can talk while I'm...
Yeah. Thanks, Dean. This seems very much in line with, other building committees we've had that you've been involved with in the past. There might be questions or ideas from board members. Alyssa.
Thank you. So Dean, you did mention that you would likely be reaching out to the members from the study committee, but there's also the potential for bringing new people on. Just out of curiosity, I went back to the letters that were written by you to put the study committee members on the agenda. We definitely have many of those expertise areas covered. Certainly public works operations with, I'm assuming you as the select board member and the public works director, also finance and engineering. But what I did notice was that it didn't seem, at least it wasn't pointed out, that there was a member with architectural or construction or legal experience. So my only concern would be to make a concerted effort to, especially since we're in the design phase, it might be good to have somebody with those areas of expertise so that they can look at plans that the consultant brings forward and maybe suggest some creative alternatives or cost-saving alternatives. And if everybody from the study committee is interested in serving again on the building committee, perhaps we could consider allowing a couple of associate members just to bring in those, what I thought might be missing skill sets, but I'm not clear on that because it could have been that they just weren't included in the information that you provided in the letters.
Dean?
So, yeah, I've got it listed down here, 4 community members with experience in construction, energy efficient design, what have you. So we will be looking specifically for folks with that skill set. The earlier committee, there was a great deal of focus from some of the earlier committee members to delve into the operation of the transfer station, recycling and that sort of thing. That is specifically not in the charge of this particular project, so I expect that we'll certainly have some people that won't be interested in continuing, and certainly any new members that do come forward. Once this is approved, we'll reach out, let not only the other previous members, but also the general public know that we are soliciting. So none of the previous at-large members have a lock on a position. So yes, very much would, we need, there was at least 3 members, the at-large members who were specifically focused on the transfer station operations. So that's why, part of the reason why I also made it very clear exactly what the charge is, and we'll be focused on the DPW facility, not the other operations.
Another question, Alyssa?
Just another suggestion, so thank you for that. I was wondering if it would be important, the study committee included a specified public outreach. I think it was 2 public forums, and I'm wondering if it would be a good idea here to outline what public outreach would happen, because this is such a big price tag. I think that the public outreach is going to be even more critical than it was before. And those public forums and the tour of the site were great, but maybe specifying at least 1 a year. Just a suggestion.
Right, I agree with you, and I think a lot of the work is going to have to be done in the public outreach. The final sentence of the second paragraph, committee shall conduct public outreach and shall update the select board at appropriate intervals. I didn't want to put a number in there because, you know, I could say shall conduct at least X number of public outreach events, but I think that's very important. So if you have a particular number in mind, I'd be happy to take it as an edit to this.
I don't have a particular number in mind because I haven't ever served on a building committee, but knowing that you will be the select board member as part of the committee and that you'll keep an eye on that, I think is sufficient. Just wanted to voice that here.
Oh yeah, I mean that a tour of the building kind of explains the problem very quickly. So
Oh, yes.
I hope to be doing that a lot.
Okay, great.
There might be other questions or comments. David?
Yes, I have a handful. To follow up on one of Alyssa's points, I was going to suggest either that in the charge it say that this committee will coordinate with the design review board, or that it have a member of the design review board. You know, I think in the during the design and idea generation and, you know, choosing the final building plans, the design review board was very helpful with the fire station, and I think they could be here as well. So I have three things that might be changes to the charge. That's one of them, either coordinating with DRB or maybe having a member of the DRB on the committee. Second is I think the members should be Acton residents, and I think that the charge should say so. And I think it should specifically say that the committee will sunset at some specific event, like, for example, the ribbon cutting for the facility, or when the facility is first occupied, or something like that. And then I have, well, maybe I'll stop there at my three changes, and then I have two other small things.
Comments, Dean?
So, yeah, I think DRB would certainly be of value. I don't know how interested they'd be in appointing a full member, but maybe we specifically put out the DRB under the second list of specific subject matter experts. I think that would work out well. And certainly I will reach out. I actually have a DRB meeting on Wednesday, so I'll let them know that we're looking for folks. If anybody would like to volunteer, but I'll certainly alert them to that. The Acton residents, yeah, I think that's a very good move, addition. And so at the end, it said the committee shall serve until the completion and commissioning of the building, at which point it will automatically be dissolved.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that. Oh, that's fine. I have two other things. I'm sorry. I have two other things, Mr. Chair, if that's okay. How will the members be selected, either through the VCC or choice of the liaison?
I would be reaching out. I want to get this moving quickly, and trying to recruit folks and going through VCC during the summer can be problematic. So we would put something in the website very quickly, soliciting members. I would be interviewing them, and then I would be bringing them forward for approval on hopefully the consent agenda, which is the procedure we used with the previous committee.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because this is a longer-term committee, but I'm fine with that. I just wanted to make sure that was explicit.
Yep, we'll be back.
And then the final thing that I'd like to be explicit is the choice of liaison. I mean, I have no objection with Dean being liaison, but with all other committees, we explicitly either do the thumbs up process or vote on who the liaison is. I just like that to be, after we approve the charge, presumably, that we select the liaison formally.
Back to Alyssa.
I think it's important for us to say the select board member rather than liaison. Because the select board member is a voting member and a liaison is not.
Anything else, David? No. Okay. Thanks for putting this together, Dean. I think the only comment I had was, well, there were two, actually. One is in the last sentence, which it says, the committee shall serve until the completion and commissioning of the building. It might be more accurate to call this the project, because we don't really know exactly how many buildings are involved here. And the other one, I think, was just really a question, which is, there's a separate process happening around the location of the fueling station. And I didn't know how that work was related to the work of this committee.
So yes, there is a separate process going on with that. But we do specifically note, I believe here, about the design and construction new DPW building and site. So I think that includes us into it. You discussed early on that, the first piece is figuring out the proper location for that fueling depot. So we can clarify that if you wish, but I think it's something that, we've anticipated.
So I think what you're saying is that the way you read this currently, there would be a recommendation coming back to the select board from this committee about the location of the fueling station?
That's not explicit, but we could certainly include a note to that effect in the charge.
That would be helpful for me, just not so I don't lose track of how that is finding its way back to us. Fran, questions, comments?
I have nothing to add that hasn't already been said.
Okay. So Dean, having heard these comments, how would you like to proceed?
Well, I'd like to get going on this. I've made notes to the effect that I'm supposed to specifically mention the fuel depot location and come back and report that to the SB. I've added design review board under the subject matter experts. I'm adding members shall be Acton residents. And in the, at the end, rather than calling it commissioning the building, we're calling it commissioning the project, which I suppose would include the fueling depot as well. So I could, if you'd like to take a vote on that, I can certainly add these edits. And I know Lisa's keeping close notes of all this as well. So, so we could get this approved, and I don't think we need to take any more action on it.
David?
I would move to approve the charge for the DPW site with the changes that Dean's outlined.
I'll second that.
Any other comments or questions on this topic? Anything from the, oh, yes, please, Fran.
Ask one quick question. I thought the fuel depot was happening sooner than with that.
Well, the design of that is going to be proceeding more quickly. But the first step that we have to do with all of this is to design the overall site, which will include the building and the fuel depot. So the fuel depot will probably proceed. There's not sufficient money to actually construct the depot, but you'll probably be hearing a lot more of it about the fuel depot before you hear much about the building.
Thank you.
I guess my only comment is that this is going to be a very large ask at town meeting. So I think it's incumbent on all of us, or most of us, to participate wholeheartedly in the process of explaining this project to the public. The last couple of big projects we've had, like Kelly's Corner and the North Acton Fire Station, proceeded with a lot of carefully planned public meetings. Now, it could be that this committee itself is going to be taking on some of that, because I see that in the charge. But we may also want to consider a group that's, a group of enthusiastic citizens who can, operate quickly in reaching out to a lot of people. That may need a different pace than the pace of a committee. So I just want us to be prepared for that this may come back to us in the form of, okay, now we need to talk to, hundreds of people about this. So just want us to be prepared for that.
Yeah, to kind of second that, I think I would encourage this committee, and there's certainly no problem with them kind of presenting to this board whenever they feel that some progress has been made. And that implicitly gets the attention of a lot of residents and gives an opportunity to comment. And so I think that's a really good thing. Anyway, I would just encourage them to present here.
I would encourage the public outreach to be also outside of this meeting, because public forum is really quite different than a select board meeting where people line up and say what they have to say for a couple of minutes, and we say thank you, and we move on to the next. The public forums that I've been to that have been led by Corey and Chinray and the consultants that they've hired, there's a lot of back and forth dialogue, and you can follow up with questions and hear directly from the consultants, directly from staff. So it's really quite different. So I don't have, like I said before, I don't have a number of public forums to suggest, but it really does need to be quite robust because this is going to be, you know, $35, $40 million project. It's a big, big ask of town meeting.
We have a motion on the table. Are there any other comments before we vote on the motion to approve the charge as amended? No, okay. All those in favor, please say yes or aye. Yes.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any noes? I was just checking carefully because this is a big one. Great, that's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Dean. Go commit some design. Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. So then there's the thing about the select board member. We could do that now, or we could wait. I'm happy to do it either way. Dean, since this is your committee, would you prefer a vote now or later?
I'd prefer now so we can get going on it.
Great. So how about a motion about making Dean Charter the select board member of this new body?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any comments about that? David?
I think it's important to do before Dean does any kind of recruiting or anything, so he needs some kind of vote from this committee, I think, either as member or as liaison or whatever, but so.
Okay, so we're taking a vote to fully authorize you to go do good stuff in relation to this committee, including being on it. All those in favor, please say yes or aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was everybody. You're in, Dean. Go do it. Okay. This next thing is the first part of what will be a discussion continued at a future meeting. But I wanted to get us started since the agenda was so relatively light tonight. This is about the Hanscom North Airfield Hangar expansion project and the possibility of us signing off on a letter opposing it. So let's see. When we passed the climate emergency declaration, one of the items in there noted that we can't possibly reach our goals unless we go outside of, you know, what we have control of or what we have influence over right here in Acton, that we're going to need state action and federal action and regional action. And this is a really good example of that. Is there a chance we could get that little chart up on the screen? Thank you, David. So there are 4 towns immediately surrounding Hanscom that have been working on this, and they have a Hanscom working group that has been, you know, advising and working with Hanscom for a long time. And in addition, each of these towns, Lincoln, Bedford, Concord, and Lexington, have climate action plans. They're in slightly different formats, measuring slightly different things, but the notion is that by 2050, that they've reached net zero in their emissions. Let's go ahead and look at the next slide. The proponent for the private jet expansion plan has various scenarios for how many emissions there would be from these private jets at Hanscom, with different assumptions about how quickly it would grow, 2 or 5 or 10%. But what you can see here is this totally overwhelms the improvements made by any of the towns or all of the towns put together. That the emissions from private jets put out an amazing amount of emissions. It would totally overturn what the state is trying to do, what the region is trying to do, and what all these 4 towns are trying to do, and what we're trying to do in Acton. So the notion here, this is a project that goes through Massport. Massport as an agency, ultimately reports to and is run by the governor's office. So the governor, as the formal head of Massport, can deny this project. It's a very attractive project to the extent that, you see the words private luxury jet, and you see right next to that would be, it's not written there, but what's implicit is, dollar signs. These are people who are willing to pay a lot of money to house their jets and land them and take off. And so it's a very lucrative part of the airport business. So it takes a strong statement, a strong will in connection with climate emissions, to say no to this thing. So there is a petition that individuals are signing in support of stopping this. And there's also a letter under development from the 4 towns. And I think between the words of the petition, which are somewhat, sort of simple and straightforward, and the more nuanced letter that's under development by the towns, we might find some place to usefully participate. I think that's the basics of what I wanted to explain. Mostly I wanted a chance to hear from all of you guys and anybody in the public who wants to make a comment about whether we should proceed into this territory of advocating for stopping this particular set of climate emissions. David.
So I am very suspicious of this effort to use climate change for this project, right? There's basically the same group here has opposed any expansion at that airport for decades before climate change was widely spoken of, and that's perfectly fine for their point of view. But now they're leveraging climate change as the reason for this, and I don't believe that's a forthright reason. Also, I will say that to assume that this has any effect on climate change means that the assumption has to be that these jets won't fly. I don't believe that's true. I mean, if these jets don't fly from Hanscom, they'll fly from Worcester, they'll fly from Manchester, they'll fly from Logan, right? If we were to take some action here, sign a letter, whatever, I mean, I want to understand what that is. In fact, you could even come up with scenarios that it's worse for climate change, right? That multiple people have to make their way to Logan, not using public transportation to get to fly to, on these private jets. And so I believe this has like zero effect on climate change. It's basically greenwashing and using the effort to do, to make the point of not wanting to expand the airport. I also feel that we have only one voice, right? We can't cry about everything. And if we're going to cry about something having to do with climate change, I would much, rather advocate with the governor to improve the electric grid. There are big things that we could do there. Electrify commuter rail, build the north-south rail link, right? All those things would have a bigger effect than this. And finally, I would say that we've just taken the naysayers against this project and they're asking us to do something. Fine. I would like a presentation from Massport as to why they want to do this, right? And get a balanced view. If there really is a reason for climate change to not do this expansion, I'd like to know what the reason is to do it, right? And so for all those reasons, I think it's greenwashing. We haven't heard both sides, and I think there's much better things for us to advocate with the governor about if we're talking about climate change issues.
Thanks, David. Other comments? Dean?
So this is one of those occasions where David and I are very closely aligned. And we didn't speak about this either. You know, the present practice that's going on there right now is that there's not enough space on the property to store these jets, so they end up parking them in New Hampshire and places like that and ferry them in. So, you know, you want to take, and I'm not, my heart does not bleed for folks that own private jets, but if you want to take a flight in your jet, you go to Hanscom, no matter how you get there, and you wait, and the jet is flown in from Keene or someplace like that, right over my house, Fran's house, and landed, and then it takes off, and then when you come back, the same thing happens. So there's actually, those ferry flights actually are, you know, constant. So I think, you know, having the jets there on site probably makes a great deal of sense as far as eliminating some of that. I agree with David. I mean, if we're worried about CO2 emissions, I mean, no matter how they get there, whether the jet's flying at Logan or it's flying at Hanscom, all of that CO2 goes into the atmosphere and moves around. So is it better for the climate if we say, well, we can't land any jets at Hanscom, you gotta land them in Logan, or you gotta land them in Manchester? The CO2 still gets in the air. At one point, in addition to the greenwashing aspects of this, they talk about environmental justice communities. And I know the definition of an environmental justice community seems a little odd. You know, I don't think of Lincoln and Concord and Lexington having a particular issue with that. But is it better to have these jets flying overhead of other communities? You know, years ago, when I was in college, I rented an apartment in Lynn, and we had jets flying over constantly, and that was a low-income neighborhood. So is it better to have more airline traffic or private jet traffic over the folks in Chelsea and Revere, or the neighborhood outside Worcester? So I think that's another red herring. We've seen this situation for years, that the folks in the towns immediately adjacent to Hanscom would rather that the airport go away. That's not going to happen. I think, you know, I've seen the pictures of the Navy hangar that they wish to demolish, and it's just a wreck of a building. I think for many reasons, it just makes sense to allow this to continue and to expand. So I'm with David on this one. I'm just not buying this. I also think there's a question of standing. I can understand the towns that actually have land that is either encompassed by the airport or immediately adjacent. But you get further and further out. I don't think we have any particular standing. Are we going to establish a no-fly zone over Acton? If we're really worried about CO2 emissions, how far out do we have to worry about that? Are we going to comment on any possible expansion at Logan? Or Worcester has just decided to expand, and they're starting to rejuvenate their whole operation, so there'll be more jets flying in and out of there. You know, do we want to start writing letters to Massport opposing that? So I don't buy the premise behind the letter that's been developed, and I don't see that the Town of Acton Select Board really has any particular need or interest or imperative that we get involved in this.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you. So I think that what appeals to me about this letter is the specific actions that it calls on the governor to take. So I don't have any argument with the idea that leveraging climate change, and I don't even, it's not clear to me who wrote this letter, so I'd like to, I'd like to know that. And I agree also with, hearing from the proponents of an expansion before we make a decision. But the actions that are appealing are demanding a reduction in the ferry flights in concert with an expansion to the runways. Because to me, that would not be as likely to just increase the number of private jet flights, which is, I think, what the fear is here. In terms of the environmental justice communities, I didn't get the sense that Concord and Lincoln and Bedford, and what's the fourth town? Lexington were suggesting that those towns are large have large environmental justice communities, but the flights go over other towns. And certainly, I think that Acton does have standing. I work at Miriam, and when we're out on the playground, the flights that come over the school are so low and so loud that it interrupts the play of the children, because you just can't stop yourself from stopping and looking up, because it's really quite intense. So I think that Acton does have standing in terms of an impact, which again is why I think that the reduction in ferry flights is an appealing action, as well as the discussion of electric flights. I think it's Cape Air that has ordered a number of, not only does that reduce greenhouse emissions, it also makes it a quieter flight. So I think in addition to carbon emission concerns, we should be really concerned about noise pollution in all communities, not just environmental justice communities. I think it would be wise to have the proponents present what the need, what the justification is for this expansion before we make a decision. I also think that rather than just adding a fifth town select board signature to one letter, it would be a lot more impactful for a unique letter to come in from the Acton Select Board, should we choose to send in a letter that's crafted to avoid the greenwashing and identify actions that we would specifically want the governor to take in terms of having an impact that is true to what it is that we're in opposition to, if anything.
Thank you much. Fran?
I too was wondering who wrote the letter. And am I guessing it was representatives? Are they from our legislators?
No.
And I would like to see some sort of presentation, something more in depth.
Is this Save Our Heritage? Is that who drafted the letter? Okay, thanks.
Looks like it, yeah. So my conclusion so far is I have a bunch of specific questions to address and some general concerns to address before I'd be able and ready to come back, that I'd want to make sure that I've given an opportunity to, so that the board can get the information directly from Massport about why this project seems to them have a good environmental impact. There's a bunch of specific questions about things like standing and who wrote the letter and what sort of impact does this have on ferry flights. So let me go ponder all that and then come back. Appreciate the feedback.
Mr. Chair, there is one person online if you're taking comments.
Great. Yeah, I'd be happy to have comments. Justin, why don't you let the commenters comment?
Okay, we have a call-in user. Go ahead.
Hi, yes, Ms. Tara, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, forcing rich people to drive their limousine slogan isn't an excuse to make it easier for them to use fossil fuels. Facilitating private fossil fuel use-based travel is not a good idea. I don't have a problem spending a little fuel to make it difficult to use. As soon as we make it easier, the next step will be more and more and more. We're supposed to be looking at degrowth, not more growth. Just because they have been about expansion, have been against expansion, and now adding climate change to the reasons to not expand is a wonderful idea. As long as the letter that they want us to sign, us as in the town, focus on climate change, what they were for or against before isn't relevant. So not having space to store or what, park them in New Hampshire, making it difficult as possible for them to use these jets. In terms of justice, what about keeping the income in the economic justice areas of New Hampshire? What about the water impacts of storing the fuels? I would normally side with an environmental justice community and say that Concord should have their share of public transit facilities, but this is not public necessity transit. It it's not needed at all. So why do nothing while they increase this inappropriate, unnecessary travel? In terms of standing, I agree with Alyssa. And as Dean said regarding flying shuttles over the houses, when it comes to climate change, we all have standing. I would say yes to petitions against other projects, including pipeline expansions, overgrowth, et cetera. I love the idea of a no-fly zone over Acton. Great idea, Dean. Thank you. It doesn't cost anything to sign this petition. Talk about crying about something and you can't choose. I don't think that we can choose one. I think we have to be against everything. We're in a climate emergency, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's all I got on that item. Now we have the consent items. Why don't I read through these, and if anyone of the select board member wants to hold these for further discussion, we'll do that. Approved meeting minutes, June 26th. Approved use of town roads, New England Tour de Cure, American Diabetes Association, August 20, 2023. Approved one-day alcoholic beverage license applications. KJ Herther, Nara Park Picnic Pavilion in September 9th, and Ellen Ferguson, Nara Park Bathhouse Pavilion on August 6th. Approve a donation of a bench valued at $2,595 from Paul Swiden to be installed at Gardner Field. Approve refund request for Kristen Holgreen for an unused cemetery plot in Woodlawn Cemetery for $2,000. Authorize the town manager to sign refundable vacant storefront tax credit agreement with the Massachusetts Office of Business Development and Salted Soul, LLC. I didn't hear any holds, so it seems like a motion might be appropriate to approve consent items 8 through 13.
So moved?
Second.
Okay. Just to close the tie, let's say that Fran seconded that. Any comment about any of those? No, it's a consent item, no discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
I saw yeses or ayes from everybody, so those are all approved. Last item is the meeting eval. Let me start off with some preliminary comments and then we'll hear from everybody here. So I'm stumbling towards a better, more fair and effective commenting time policy. I'm glad to have had my little timers here. What else? I was glad to have a short meeting. We kept some complicated things off of here, partly because John wasn't here, and there are some things that I prefer to talk about when the town manager is here. So happy to have an early night. What else? I think I should get very specifically clear about what it is that I need to read and not read from a hearing, because I think it's a lot less than we normally have written down. I'm feeling slightly spanked about the private jet expansion piece, but that was appropriate. This is why I brought it up, so I could hear concerns. So I'm pleased with how that process went, at least as far as hearing all this good information. Of course, I would have preferred everyone to just say, no, let's not wait, let's just sign it now. But I recognize that was not to be. I think that's all my meeting eval comments. Why don't we just go in order? Alyssa, you have anything to say about the meeting?
Nope, I'm good.
David?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Fran?
I just, to your comment, I think the meeting went well. It's nice to have an early meeting. But in my opinion, it's not spanking. It's just perspectives. And I think it's really helpful in hearing other members' perspectives, so.
Oh, I agree. It's a matter of how it felt, but that's different than what it actually was.
The one thing that I noticed was, and I know that it just came to you, but getting that letter with all of the backup information about Hanscom and not getting it to us until noontime or so today, I had the time to read it. I presume my other colleagues did, but having it posted that late did not allow any members of the public to really access it. So I think, and I know the situation from chairing before, that sometimes you have to deal with things as quickly as you can get them, but it would be very helpful to get that information out to us sooner rather than later, especially with something like this. It could have a lot of ramifications. So I think getting the information quicker, although it was certainly in the agenda that we saw Thursday afternoon, but not getting the real meat of it until noontime today, I think was a disservice to the public.
Thank you. This would be a good time to have a motion about no longer meeting. Anyone got a motion like that?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say yes or aye. Yes?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's 5 yeses. Let's stop.